All right.
Here we go. I mean, it really is a pretty big bummer about the Royals.
I know.
I wish it would have gone the other way, but
Yeah, it was a fun postseason. And I completely forgot how bad they were last season. Would they have 106 losses to making the
yeah,
postseason? Like, pretty
complete
good
180.
turnaround. Yeah.
hmm
Oh. All right. Well, let's hop into it. Um, Welcome back to the Merge Feast. I realized after recording last episode that we have not really introduced ourselves much this season. So my name is Blake. I'm joined with Logan this week, and Brandon is normally here, but he could not make it this week. So he's all right. He'll be back next week. He's just been recording on his baseball podcast with since the Royals are in the postseason or were in the postseason. But yeah, so yeah, Logan, what did you think of this week? Like, what were some highlights?
Yeah, I think this week was, I think, one of the better episodes of the season, and I think we got a lot of insight to some of the tribes, to the alliances. We see some ruffles in alliances to new advantages, uh, kind of a new twist on finding an idol, like hidden idol, and some different things that were really exciting and kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it was probably one of the more exciting ones this season for me. I feel like the game kind of goes through stages, and the first couple weeks are all, you know, a little kumbaya. Let's get to know everybody. I like everybody. Everybody's fun. And then you get to usually about episode 3, episode 4, you start to get that like, okay, I'm annoyed and everybody is driving me crazy on my tribe. And then it's like right after that, the game starts to break wide open. And I think we really started to see that this week. We'll obviously get into Lavo, and I think they were kind of the big focus for me. But before we get into too much of Lavo, I wanted to talk about just kind of how all the tribes are set up. So right now, I don't know if you agree with this, but Tuku seems the most tight knit and the most cohesive. They have some cracks in there, but at least this week it seemed like they were the most just tight knit.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. The dynamic with Sue and Gabe and Caroline and like there for a little bit, I felt like Kyle, or the first couple of episodes with Kyle being blindsided on some of those votes with getting TK out and some of that. It seemed like he was on the outs and not having anybody. But this week, they all just kind of seemed like they grew back together and almost mended some of those relationships. I don't know. We didn't see a ton from them this week, but they all did seem, for the most part, together. I think Sue found a hidden immunity idol this week, and I think that could start to ruffle some feathers the way it kind of played out. And I'm excited to dive into that because that was something I don't know if we've ever seen before
Yeah.
and all, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because it definitely was a different vibe this week.
Yeah, let's talk about Sue for a little bit. Um, I don't think there's anybody in their right mind that would actually believe that Sue is 45. Like, she does not look like she's almost 60, but 45 seemed like that was stretching it a little bit. So it was like, I don't know why you would necessarily lie about that and get that drastic with it, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I get not wanting to throw out your age if you are the oldest and like kind of a weak thing or something like that, but to drop your age that much seemed a little, like you said, a little drastic.
Yeah. No. But yeah, let's so she found just the clue to, was it also a beware advantage?
No, that was just a straight up immunity idol. So it was good. It is a full fledged immunity idol, good until the top five.
Right,
Last time she can use it.
but it was there, I thought it like she had lost her vote until she found it.
I guess that's true. But I don't remember if it said beware or if it just said like you found a clue. I don't know.
And now
But
I'm
she,
blanking on that.
yeah, I do know that it said that she would not have a vote until she found the immunity idol or whatever that was.
Okay. So yeah, I think it had to have been uh, the beware advantage. But basically, she found that. It told her where to go. She found the tree pretty quickly. Had the rope underneath the tree or underneath some vines. She chopped that down. A little like vase fell and cracked, and red paint went everywhere. Literally got blood on her hands and got caught red-handed. I mean, it was like I don't know. I've never seen anything like that, and I thought it was really really cool. Kind of a little twist to finding that idol.
Yeah, as soon as she chopped, I thought she did a pretty good job of finding it. And as soon as she chopped that and it fell down and red paint went everywhere, I was like, oh my gosh, that is going to be insanely hard to cover up. And not only because the idol was in all of the red paint, so you're getting it all over your hands, like you said, but the ground, the leaves, if it splattered anywhere, I mean, it was everywhere.
Yeah, and Sue seemed to do a really good job of covering it up, except obviously not having a mirror. Didn't realize that it was on her face and like in her hair a little bit, and it really seemed like they thought it was blood and not paint. I mean, because why would paint be out in the middle of the jungle? But um, like as soon as she started washing it off, it seemed like it looked more and more like blood,
Hmm.
and she was definitely weird about it. Um, what's her name?
Tiana, I think it is.
Tiana. Yeah, she was kind of sketched out, but then that was kind of the last we saw of it.
Hmm.
Um, so, and I'm sure we would have seen more if Tuku would have gone to tribal, but I don't know. It's interesting now. I think Sue is in a really good spot with having that idol, and then kind of having the really good relationship with Caroline and Gabe. Even
Hmm.
though Gabe was playing kind of sketch and she was playing kind of sketch, I feel like those three could do really well. So I'll be curious to see how that develops over the next couple weeks.
Wasn't it Caroline and Tiana that walked up on her at the well, finding her kind of being acting all weird?
Yes, but Caroline didn't seem as sketched out as Tiana did.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe I just didn't pick up on it, but I mean, she definitely seemed concerned at the well, but when
Hmm.
her and Tiana were walking away, Tiana was the one that was like, I don't know about that. She's kind of sketching me out a little bit. And Caroline just seemed to be like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't
No,
know.
that.
I'll be curious. Because
Yeah.
wait, did Sue tell anybody about her idol, or did we see that yet?
No, because she said as soon as she found the idol, she said something along the lines like, "Nobody's gonna know I have this. Like, I'm keeping this to myself." And then that's when the paints went everywhere, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I've got to clean this up." And then she gets caught, and so it was one of those like, "I'm not telling anybody," but then it was, "Oh my gosh, I'm might have to tell somebody if I can't get this all cleaned up." So I don't think she's told anybody yet, at least yet.
speaking of telling people about their idols, let's talk about the journey, and then we'll kind of jump back to the challenge. But so the journey, it was Teeny. Um,
It was Teeny, Caroline, and Andy.
that's right. That's right. So the whole kind of idea on this journey, they all sat around and talked for a little bit, and then they read that piece of paper after they flipped the hourglass over, and the whole gist of it was, if one of you agrees to give up their vote at the next tribal council, then you all get a reward or like an advantage.
Advantage.
Yep.
Hmm.
Um, but if nobody agrees to lose their vote, then you all lose your vote and none of you get an advantage. And they talked for quite a while. And then I think it was Teeny that was finally like, fine, I'll throw my vote away, like take my vote. And she even said there at the end, like, I'd rather lose my vote and get an advantage than lose my vote and not get anything. So definitely smart on her part. And I think it worked out for her because she wasn't on the chopping block, but also kind of sucks that she ended up going to tribal. So
Yeah, I think her thought process behind that of, okay, I trust my alliance. I feel like I've got the numbers. Like you said, I don't want to go home with nothing. Let's have something to show for it. Do you think you would have had the same thought process there, or would you have stuck like, nah, I'm keeping my vote, like standing strong?
oh man. I mean, it really seemed like Caroline was about to give up her vote for it.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I would try and see. It's like, okay. I mean, I know you don't have time to really think it through, but now that I do have time to think it through, I would probably try and do something like, okay, we're either all going to lose our vote or one person is going to lose our vote. So let's agree that one of us is going to lose our vote, and then let's figure out how to make it random. Let's like draw straws or rock paper scissors or something like that, to where it's completely random, because we all want an advantage. Like, there's no reason for us to all lose our vote and nobody get an advantage. That's just dumb. So how can we make it random? And I
Yeah.
think you would get some buy-in on that, because it would be really hard for me to say, yeah, I'll take one for the team, because that's a lot of power, and not even realizing it until later that you if you lose your vote, you don't even have the opportunity to play your shot in the dark,
Hmm.
which, like, that takes away any potential, like, hope that you might have at tribal. So I think it'd be hard to volunteer to give up my vote. I'd try and make it random somehow.
No, I actually like that idea. I was thinking about it of, okay, if we're all three sitting there talking, thinking about it, we clearly have a timer that we have to decide by a certain point. I'm going to call the other people's bluff and basically wait until the very last second. And if it comes down to it, all right, I'll lose it. I'll take the hit for the team and like try and wait it out and see if anybody else is willing to wait it out as long as I am. And that way I can kind of try and not have that like not take the fall there. But I like the idea of, hey, let's come up with some sort of plan here, because if, like you said, if we don't do something, we're all going to lose it, and that's just dumb. So
Yeah, absolutely. Haven't we seen an amulet advantage like that in the past, or was it slightly different?
it was slightly different. I don't remember exactly the rules on it previously. It was something to do with, I believe there was three of them, and while there were three of them, it like was an extra vote, or something like that. If
That's
there's
right.
two of them, it was a steal a vote, and then once it was one left, it was a full-fledged idol.
Right.
But I don't think it was exactly that. It was something along those lines, but definitely have had something along those lines.
Okay. Because Andy kept saying we've never had like an amulet like this. I was like,
Hmm.
I feel like we have, but I think you're correct. It was not a full fledged idol from the beginning. It was some sort of variation of that, and then it became an idol once it was the final, like once there was one person left.
Yeah.
So no, that makes sense. But it sounds like that won't be able to be used until they're all on the same beach. Like so, once the merge happens.
Hmm. Yeah. So they all have to be on the same beach, and they all have to agree to use it together. So not one person can't just go be like, "Hey, here's an idol." Like you all
Yeah.
have to agree to use it on the same person and like use it together.
So, with that being said, knowing that you have that, that would automatically make you like fairly aligned with the other two people that got that amulet. Like, do, do you think they all agreed to tell the truth to their tribe? Because every single person like explained what happened. Now, somebody didn't share it with everybody.
I don't think Teeny shared it with everybody. I think Teeny just shared it with he shared it with Keyshawn and Soul, I think. Or no, she shared it with I don't remember who she shared it with, but I know she shared it with just a couple people and didn't tell everybody. So it might have been Keyshawn and Genevieve or something like that because it wasn't everybody. I know that for a fact.
But I was just really surprised that everybody, I mean, at least for the most part, each one of them told multiple people on their tribe what actually happened. And so not only did you like reveal that you have this advantage, but you're also revealing who else on the other tribes like and like confirming that they also got an advantage.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of put you at a downfall there of okay, like I clearly have to have some sort of an alliance with these other people here. So if we do all merge and we're all three left, like that kind of puts other people at a disadvantage. But at the same sense, it's one of those that if you can have enough of your tribe go into the merge and have a strong alliance and like trust there, do you start trying to pick off some of those other people with those amulets to where then it's down to two and then it's down to yourself and you get to keep it by yourself, you know?
Yeah, I just don't know that it's as big of a as enticing, I guess, to do that because the power doesn't necessarily change. You just don't have to use it with an extra person. Like they
Yeah,
don't have to agree with you. Whereas before, it was almost enticing to vote the
hmm,
other people out because then the advantage got better.
that's
This,
true.
it doesn't necessarily get better. You just have less people to have to deal with. But I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
true.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if any of that gets, yeah, like if the gameplay gets taken up a notch and they start using that on like, hey, let's all three go like use the idol on this person as a way for like them and who they're actually aligned with to like flush out the idol. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how and if that is played. I feel like it's probably going to come down to like one person having it, maybe two people having it and using it. I have a hard time believing that all three of them are going to agree on who to use that on.
Yeah, that would be a hard thing to come up with, and I feel like it will happen, but what are the odds that none of them make the merge or only two of them do? I mean, that's something else to think about. Just because they're all three in now doesn't mean they're all three going to be there when the merge comes because that doesn't have any power right now.
For sure.
So that's something to it'd be interesting to see who all makes it to the merge. Do all three make it? Do only a couple of them make it?
Yeah. Well, and I do really like those three. Andy's kind of the wild card, but um, he's growing on me. He didn't really lose a lot of stock for me this week, but
Mm-mm.
um, yeah, I guess before we get into like kind of whose stock rose and whose stock dropped, let's talk about the challenge. So it was immunity and reward, correct?
Yes.
And the reward was you either won 3 chickens if you were the first place team, like
Egg-laying chickens.
egg laying hens, or if you were second, you got 6 eggs. And I was like, dang, that's that's quite the drastic difference. Not even a dozen eggs, but 6 eggs all the same. If you were first, what would you do? Would you keep the chickens and have them lay the eggs, or would you kill the chickens and eat the chicken?
I don't. It's hard for me to say because I think your mindset would change if you haven't eaten in 8 days and seeing a chicken like, oh, let's just eat the chicken. In my thought process right now, I'd say let's keep the chickens alive. We have a consistent flow of eggs coming in. That's food we get to eat. If it comes down to it and we're just starving still, let's kill one chicken or something like that. But I think the constant flow of food and eggs and that happening, it'd be hard to just say, all right, let's kill all 3 chickens and eat it because that only lasts for a certain amount of time.
I would definitely think it would be smart to kill one at some point, but then you got to worry about like, okay, like cleaning it, cooking it, like plucking all the feathers. Like that's not necessarily an easy thing. That's not just like buying a rotisserie chicken and ripping it all up. So I'm sure that probably weighs into it. But and then you think like, okay, if we only get 3 or 4 eggs a day, I mean, I don't know how many eggs each hen would lay, but let's say we get 3 a day because there's 3 chickens. Hey, can we not eat for another day or another 2 days and then like really go crazy on these eggs? Everybody'd get 2 or 3 eggs each. Like that could be a heck of a meal.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but I don't know. That the challenge was pretty crazy. So like all 3 teams were incredibly close, almost like neck and neck the entire time
Hmm.
until they got to the puzzle. And I mean, I guess the entire challenge seemed like it's something that we'd kind of seen before, but it was just a slight variation to a lot of different ones. Um, like the where you threw the sandbags through the little window that you had to build,
Yeah.
and if you knocked over the window, you had to rebuild it. And if like I think at one point, I forget who it was, but somebody threw the sandbag. It knocked over the window, but landed on the barrel. And
Hmm.
Jeff was like, "Nope, that doesn't count. You've got to land it on there without knocking it over." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Dang, that's a cool twist. I like that."
Yeah. Got to be a clean throw. Keep it intact. So
So it's like they took a lot of things that we've kind of seen or seen something similar, moving sandbags, like little things like that. And then at the end, you've got a puzzle that Jeff said was completely brand new. Um, and that's where things fell apart for Lavo.
boy, did they.
I
It.
mean, from the beginning of this episode, Rome is just kind of spiraling, right? I
Hmm.
mean, he really wants Saul out, and so he just goes a little crazy. And we'll talk about that in a minute because it'll kind of lead into to tribal. But there was a point in that challenge that I thought for a second Rome might be throwing it.
Yeah, it definitely crossed my mind because the way he was just sitting there and holding up a piece, trying it, and then handing it back, and then Saul even at one point even was like, "Hey, do you guys want to switch spots?" And I think in that sense, he was talking to him and Genevieve of like,
Mhm.
"Hey, why don't you guys just switch spots and see if she can get anything going?" And they just straight up ignored him. And I was like, "Is Rome really trying to throw this so they can go to tribal and he can get Saul out?" Like, not that I just don't think throwing a challenge ever is a good idea. And
Yeah, and the more I watched it, the more I don't actually think that Rome threw it,
mm-mm,
but I had that thought for a moment, and it almost seemed like Genevieve was in on it because it seemed like the other 2 people both or the other 2 tribes, both people that were in the puzzle were trying to fit pieces in. It wasn't like one of them was just handing the other one pieces the whole time, right?
yeah, it
So the fact that Genevieve wasn't down there trying multiple pieces, and I mean, I know not everybody's good at puzzles, but you and I have done enough jigsaw puzzles where you can look at a piece and know there's no way that can possibly fit. And some of the ways he was trying to fit those pieces in and trying multiple times when Saul could see it immediately and he was like, that doesn't work. That one doesn't work there. Or nope, it's that one, flip it around. Like I was blown away at Rome's lack of ability to complete a single piece. I mean, that was just it blew my mind.
Yeah, not to get a single piece is mind blowing. I understand not being great at puzzles or not seeing it and it just not working out, but you've got to get at least one piece. Come on.
Well, and I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but so we had Saul, Teeny, and Kashan kind of sitting on the outs watching Genevieve and Rome do the puzzle. And Saul was the only person that was saying anything. Like everybody else was just sitting back and kind of letting it happen because, and I don't know why. Like, I want to say because, like, they don't want Rome to go crazy on them, but I have no idea. Like, they were so close. And then it seemed like as soon as they got to the puzzle and the other team started pulling away from them, even just a little bit, they all kind of gave up.
Yeah, I think it was even after the first team completed the puzzle and the second team was almost done. Lavo just basically just stepped back and just watched. Like they gave up.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. And I thought it was fitting with how like cocky and arrogant Rome seemed before that. And let's kind of hop back in and talk about Rome and the dynamics of Lavo. So we talked about it for a second, but Rome really wanted Saul out, and knowing that he like Rome played his idol last episode at Tribal, he had to, like, everybody knows that there's going to be an idol that gets put back into play. And so Rome nor anybody else really seemed to want Saul to get the idol, but Rome kind of acted like a child and just followed him around the whole time. And I mean, was like really annoying about it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, almost seemed like a bully.
hmm I mean, from following him around to, and like, I understand not wanting him to find the idol and like being cautious and aware that he's out looking, but to follow him side by side, Saul even like turned around on the path a couple times and Rome was like shoulder to shoulder with him. And so I was like, can I just go sit out on the beach by myself? I'm not looking for the idol. I just want to go sit by myself. No, I'm going to go sit next to you. Like, I don't have to leave you alone. Like, this is Survivor. It just seemed, like you said, almost like a bully. And then later, a little bit later, when Rome went to talk to Saul of like, hey, I have a steal a vote. You can either vote with me or I'm going to use my steal a vote on you to where you can't use your shot in the dark and you're going home. And like Saul's like, are you threatening me? Like no, this is an ultimatum. Like it was just, I was not a fan of it, and not a fan of Rome at all this episode.
Well, and what made that whole thing worse is that Rome had no intention of voting with Saul.
Mm-mm.
Like, he even said, little does he know, I'm going to steal his vote anyway. He just gets to decide how he wants to go out.
Yeah,
And I was like, wait a second. You're going to bully this guy into making him do what you want him to do, all for you to do whatever you're going to do anyway? Like, that's just so mean.
yeah.
And it is amazing how Genevieve kind of turned this all around. So we get back, and because Teeny she's on the journey, right?
Mhm.
She loses her vote, but was it Kashan and Rome were talking, and they're like, who do we tell? Who do we tell Saul that it is? And Kashan is the one that throws out Genevieve's name. And his thought was, Rome and Genevieve are super close. I really want to get out Rome. So let's come up with this plan on what to tell Saul and then actually get Rome out. And then Genevieve will need somebody to like step in and like become an alliance with her since she won't have Rome that she's close to. And that'll be perfect for me to kind of swoop in and take her under my wing. Brilliant thinking. Like Kashan was playing wonderful.
Mhm.
But as soon as Rome told Genevieve that Kashan threw her name out, like she turned it on.
Yeah, it was a flip of a switch of my name's out there. I don't like that. Whoever said it's going home. And the way, like you said, the way that she was able to orchestrate that and get people to vote with her and go through that with it being Rome and Saul, mind like was really, really impressive.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, she had a little bit of internal dialogue there as far as like, man, everybody wants Rome out. Rome's kind of driving everybody crazy, but he's not driving me crazy.
Hmm.
And I do feel like I can trust him, even if other people can't. And that's okay. So, what do I want to do? And you know, it almost seems like she didn't even want to hear Kashan's explanation. And I think reading some articles today, there may have been a conversation between Genevieve and Kashan, but she like, man, she turned it on. She was from last. I don't know if she had a single confessional last episode. I think she may have had 3 or 4 confessionals the entire season so far, and then she was the bright spot in this episode.
Yeah, we hadn't seen much from her, and to be able to see her actually orchestrate some things and make some moves and all, it was really nice because I think if she can keep that up and be cautious about it, obviously, you don't want to be too strong too soon, but make these moves, keep your alliance strong, and some of those things. She could be a real force to reckon with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know it was Saul and Rome that did not see eye to eye when Genevieve approached Saul about her plan for her and Rome and Saul to all vote together. Like, he flat out told her, "Yeah, there's no way I can do that. Like, I just can't. This guy's been incredibly disrespectful and a bully. I can't do that. I have to vote for Rome." And then out of nowhere, and it seemed unprompted, and maybe they just left it out of the cut, but Rome came up and apologized and realized, like, man, I didn't handle any of that very well. And then again at Tribal, where they had a pretty nice exchange, and Rome even offered that up, and like, man, that is not how I intended that to come across, and I handled that really poorly, and I'm sorry.
Hmm.
And then seem to come to an understanding. Like, they don't really trust each other, but it's like, okay, I can I can maybe look past that a little bit. And I forget who it was. It might have been Genevieve that was talking about. how, I mean, and maybe it was Saul. It doesn't really matter. But at this point in the game, there's parts of you that you don't like that just come out because you're hungry, you're tired, it's like, and your rude and disrespectfulness is just going to come out sometimes, and that's not necessarily how you intended it, but that's how it, that's how it got delivered. And kind of realizing that they all have a little bit of that, not to Rome's level, but I don't know, it was kind of a just a cool moment all the way around.
Yeah, and I think they're at I believe it was at Tribal Council. They even, I don't know if it was exactly, but somebody even said something about like, we're living with these people 24 hours a day. And so meeting somebody and living with somebody like that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every little thing that somebody does, if you don't agree with or anything like that, things are going to get on your nerves, especially like you said, being hungry, tired, all those different things. It's going to play a factor.
Yeah, that was
And
Kashan that was talking about that.
yeah, I mean, being around somebody 24/7 when you don't know a ton about them or trying to learn, and like when you meet somebody new, you're going to notice things that they do that drive you crazy, and those are just going to be amplified. And it was a really good point to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, not to jump around because I don't want to get too crazy, but speaking of emotional and being hungry and tired, we saw Sue having that earlier in the episode. She was came down, sat down, and was like, just kind of started crying. And she's like, I'm sorry, I just get emotional when I get exhausted and tired. And like, there's literally nothing wrong. I'm tired.
Yeah.
So like you
That
can,
would be Jess.
yeah.
Remember Vegas?
Yeah. So like it's cool to see those moments because that is very real.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for you, whose stock increased this week? And then kind of we'll jump over to whose stock decreased. Give me a couple names for you, and then I'll tell you mine.
Stock increase, absolutely. I think top of the list, Genevieve. I think with the moves that she made, the way she was able to orchestrate that, not seeing a ton from her before, I think absolutely was a huge jump for her. I would even say, to a point, Saul, stock increase there, from him being on the bottom to voting one of the core alliance members out there, I think gets him kind of a foot in with Rome and Genevieve. So give him a little bit of a stock up, stock down.
Well, I guess before you go over to stock down, let's go. I'll tell you mine. So, yes, absolutely, Genevieve, and out of nowhere, like,
Mhm.
didn't even know she was playing the game until this week.
Yep.
So good on her, and she's playing really well. I actually really, really like how she's playing. So
Mhm.
she's definitely top on my list. Saul for me as well. I really enjoy just his demeanor on things, and he seems calm, cool, and collected. When Rome was going full on crazy, I mean, Teeny at one point broke the fourth wall and did a Jim Halpert from The Office, like just kind of eyeing the camera, like, man, what is he doing? Like, this is
Yeah.
just crazy. And Saul was just fine. Like, he was obviously frustrated, but just like, man, I can't let this get to me. And then having people approach him playing his cards right, like, definitely got out of a pretty bad hole. And I think he's sitting much better this week. Two other ones for me. Kashan, even though he got voted out, I thought I thought his stock like went up for me this week up until the point he went out because he was playing really, really well. Just Genevieve got the better of him. And man, if those two got together, they could have been very dangerous because those two strategy wise, best I've seen this season
Mhm.
so far.
Mhm. I would agree with that.
The other one that I'm not 100% sure on, I'm curious your thoughts, is Sam. and we didn't talk about him a whole lot, but him and Sierra's dynamic is a little interesting. Um, they're both like dating or engaged, and hearing that some people think of them as like Ken and Barbie and kind of the cute couple seems to like, I don't know, drive a little bit of a wedge in them. But I really like the way he handled Andy. And then I kind of like how he stood up to Sierra and how they were, arguing back and forth, and he just wasn't willing to fold over or roll over and fold. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Sam.
Yeah, I could see stock up. I don't know if I would, for me, I don't know if I would say stock up. I wouldn't say stock up or stock down for him. I think I'd leave him pretty level because I don't feel like we saw a ton from him move wise or anything like that. And I think he's doing a really good job of helping Andy and kind of aligning with Andy and using him and having him under his wing. And like you said, standing up for himself with Sierra and some of that. I get where you're coming from. I just don't know if we saw enough or
Yeah.
had enough from him to fully commit to saying his stock went up this week.
Yeah.
But I can see where you're coming from though.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely wasn't top 3 for me this week by any means, but I guess I left a little encouraged after watching him, and I'll kind of switch over to stock down. I left a little discouraged by Sierra. Like she, at one point, she told Andy, who she's not incredibly close with, like they're close, but it seemed like her and Sam were closer. She told Andy before she told Sam what the name of the All Girls Alliance was, and then told him not to tell anybody. He ended up telling Sam. So it's like, okay, there's some trust broken there. But then immediately you're going to say, well, I want to vote out Andy. Like, well, if you really want to vote out Andy, why would you blow up a potential majority alliance that you have with the girls?
Yeah.
Because if they find out that you shared that, you're on the bottom there and you want to vote out Andy. So, like, you don't have anybody. You're on an island. Like,
hmm
I thought that was a total blunder this week.
Yeah, she was on my list of stock down because that was not played well at all. And I understand wanting to vote Andy out because he is clumsy and I mean, from his shot in the dark falling out of his bag onto the ground and some of those different things, like he's not as sharp as some of the others, I don't think. And I understand wanting to get away from that. But like you said, if you want to vote him out, why did you tell him the name of the other alliance and like give that information out? Because that's just like you said, could potentially blow up in her face. What any other stock down for you this week?
um, Rome up until the very last minute, but still, like that, he was so bad the first 3/4 of the episode, really the first 9/10 of the episode, and then kind of redeemed himself a little bit at the end with apologizing to Saul.
Mm-hmm.
I want to like Rome because he almost seemed, and this may be a little dramatic, but he almost seems like he's a little cocky and arrogant, not because he actually is, but because he's overcompensating for his lack of confidence. It is kind of my thought. And so if that's true, I kind of feel for him a little bit. And I want him to do well to like prove to himself that he is good enough. But man, that's hard for me to look past. Like that, he was just ridiculous. And I did not like it at all.
Yeah, I was not a fan of him. Like you said, he redeemed himself at the very end. Still don't think it was great. His apology to me almost sounded a little surface level. I'm like, hey, sorry, I just didn't come off great, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of walked off, talked about it more at Tribal. And I think that one was a little bit more sincere.
For sure.
And like you said, I want to like the guy. I think he is playing the game. He's out there trying to make moves. He's out there trying to find the idols. He's aware of things. He is playing the game well to a point, but he's got to clean up some of the bully-esque type things and like just clean that side of things up, and I think he could go far.
For sure. Well, and he's playing the game from the strategy side of it, regardless, like with no regard to the social side of the game. And he's using the social side of the game for his strategy in like a totally cold, like robotic kind of way.
hmm
And if that, even if he gets to the end like that, I just don't think people are going to respect that kind of gameplay. And that's something that I don't think he's considering.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Outside of those two, I think those were kind of my two stock down. I don't not like I just don't feel like we had a ton from really anybody else that was worthy of dropping their stock on that.
yeah, the only other one for me was Teeny, but not because of anything she did or didn't do. Just the fact that she was out of tribal or out of the loop for the time that she went on the journey. Now she got the advantage, but she told everybody. And now she's on the complete outside of the vote, which they obviously didn't have to tell her because she couldn't vote. So it didn't matter. But I kind of wonder if she's now at a little bit of a disadvantage. So I still like her a lot, and I still hope she does really, really well. But as far as her kind of potential in the game, I almost wonder if she took half a step back this week.
I could see that. I will be really interested to see the tribe dynamics with Lavo going forward because they clearly had a good alliance with the four of them, with Saul on the outside, and then she was almost kind of blindsided because wasn't expecting Kishan to be voted out, and so I'm curious how the alliance is Genevieve, Rome, and Saul all going to be like the majority now, and is Teeny going to be on the outside? So did her and Saul flip? Are they? What's that going to look like? Because if that's the case, yeah, absolutely, her stock went down. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else to talk about on Tribal?
No,
Were you disappointed that Kishan got voted out?
yes and no, because I liked him. I think he was trying to play the game, and he even had a confessional at one point of, "I'm not here to play it safe. I'm here to kind of cause a little bit of like chaos and have some fun." And so I think he was wanting to play the game and trying to play the game and all, but I didn't I didn't want Saul to go home. I really, really like Saul. So keeping Saul there, I was okay with him going home. So I was okay with it, but wasn't okay. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I honestly was hoping that Rome would go home, and I liked Kashan a lot. I think he was playing really, 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 really well strategically. So I hated to see that. I didn't really love Rome this week, so kind of was hoping that he would go home, but it was okay. I didn't like how long he sat there immediately after the votes were read, and he kind of like it's like why'd you do that? And I'm okay if you talk a little bit like as you're getting up, but like, I don't know. But then at the end when he had the whole like, "Hey, this was a great experience," like that confessional,
hmm
he seemed totally fine. It was
hmm
just you could tell how blown away he was and caught off guard.
Oh, I mean, 100% without a doubt, a clear blindside. Like he had no idea about it whatsoever. So I think him just sitting there and like what just happened and trying to process it, I can understand sitting there and like just not thinking about it like, oh, I gotta get up and take my stuff because he wasn't expecting that whatsoever. But
For
I
sure.
don't know. It,
Yeah.
it was it was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Anything else before we get to Survivor of the Week?
No, not that I can really think of. I think we've really hit on the main big things this week.
Okay. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Go ahead. I
All
think I
right.
know who you're going to say, but go ahead.
Well, do you? I don't know. Part of me would like to pick who got voted out again, because Sean played really, really well, but there's no doubt about the fact that it was Genevieve this week. She was
Mhm.
100% Survivor of the Week, and you can disagree with me, but you will be wrong. To go from not even knowing that you were really in the game, like as an audience, to controlling the game so perfectly well, I I mean, there's she's the best there is right now until somebody shows me a different.
Yeah, no. And for me, I was going to say Genevieve as well. And I don't like saying the same person sometimes. So I'm going to throw out like kind of an honorable mention. And that person's going to be Saul. I think from going from the bottom of Rome was voting him out to there was nothing he could do about it, and he was there, he was out, to now being, I wouldn't say necessarily on the top, but voting with them, staying. I think that enough gives him enough to be Survivor of the Week. But like you said, hands down Genevieve this week. But an honorable mention would be Saul for me.
For sure. Well, and he's definitely overcome the most adversity, I think,
Hmm.
at least this week. I mean, from, like you said, for being almost voted out, blindsided last week, like all of that, it just, and the way he handled Rome,
Yeah,
definitely up there.
I am a huge fan of Saul, and like like you said, his composure and keeping his emotions in check, and I don't know, I am a big Saul fan.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was thinking at one part of that, like, man, I hope, and I know I'm not, but I hope one day I can be that patient
Hmm.
and that, like, what's the word you use? Composed. Like, man, not let people get under my skin and let them know that they are, but not having to react to it.
Yeah,
And at I don't know, it's definitely impressive. I'm curious to see him get on social media and see what knowledge he drops on the world.
yeah. Well,
Anything else you have?
not that I can think of. Again, I mean, like I said, was a great episode at from the beginning of it, and I'm excited for what's to come, and I hope this is just the beginning of what we're seeing of the gameplay, because I think, like you said, the very first few episodes are kind of a slow, everybody meeting each other, getting alliances, and then we start to see some of those as tribes go to tribal, or like each tribe goes to tribal and but have to vote somebody out, and some of those gameplay. And this year I feel like is a little bit different because each tribe has had to go to tribal,
Yeah.
or previously we've only had to see one team, and the gameplay and the strategic side of things, like we're seeing that earlier, and I love it.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, and you could even see it still towards the beginning of this episode that we were still kind of in that stage of, oh my gosh, you are driving me absolutely crazy. And then you have one person that steps into the chaos and finds some sort of control in it, and the game just, like, I mean, it's like dominoes. I mean,
Hmm.
and I think we're gonna see that continue next week, and we may still see some glimpses of, oh my gosh, you're just annoying the crap out of me, but I think we're really gonna start to see the game open up, and this is when we're gonna see that full on strategic side, and like you said, the fact that it's strategy from three different tribes, I think makes it seem like even that much more.
Hmm.
So that's gonna be fun the next couple weeks.
Absolutely, I'm excited.
So, well, thank you guys for joining in. I'm sorry this episode was dropped a day late and a dollar short, but it is out, and we should be back to Friday next week. But appreciate you tuning in, and follow us on all socials, X, all of that, and yeah, go ahead and say goodbye, Logan.
Goodbye, Logan.